we are going to go into my driver awards. Kids, I'm going to have you guys line up against the fence here. Because John doesn't have the music ready. Ay, ay, ay. Say, ay, 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 John.
I definitely deserve it, Becca.
Yes, you certainly do. All right.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 14 of season 2. We hope you all survived a very busy Memorial Day weekend where there was a lot of racing taking place. And we're here to break it all down with the usual cast of characters with myself, Mason, alongside
Wait, you started
John,
without me?
and also Mr. and Mrs. Collinsworth Pelkeys. Welcome to the show.
They showed up.
Why
Look
did you
at
start
them
without me?
This was perfect.
This was
No.
perfect timing.
We have
What
Mr.
a
and Mrs.
great-
Collinsworth joining the show. This is great, folks. You're in for a treat
And they joined
today.
at the same time. It was the greatest thing yet.
That
It's
was
like we
awesome.
scripted it.
No.
I approve.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank our presenting sponsor in 2023, Hitch Harness, Mr. Tyler Hall out of Fernand, Minnesota. He developed the Hitch Harness product as a very innovative product, so it deals with two main issues if you're a truck owner or own receiver hitches. Safety, so you have safe storage in the back of your truck, and also efficiency, so you can move from one project to the next without wasting a whole bunch of time. Encourage you to go over to hitchharness.com to check out their inventory. They have multiple styles and colors to choose from. They have chassis dollies out there for the racers if you want to add that to your shop. And go like the Facebook page in case you may get a good promotional deal throughout the year. And so thank you so much, Tyler, for the support of the podcast in 2023. Hope you have success in the racing as well. So the lineup this week is we had some caution flags, and based on the order of the cautions and the way they fell, this is the lineup for the episode. So for the first time in the Track Packers podcast history, yours truly is on the pole. Followed.
This is rigged.
This is very rigged. We need the black flag right now.
Oh, whatever. Jessup is on the outside of the front row, followed
Let's
by
go.
John.
This is
and-
definitely rigged.
Let's
Black
go.
flag for Jessup.
and Becca rounding out the field for this episode. But I'll start at the rear of the field. Miss Becca, how are you doing this week?
I was doing better, and then I hung out with John all last weekend, and he was sick, not with the same thing I had, because he actually went to the walk-in because he felt so bad. But then I ended up getting like race sick, and now I'm trying to get over whatever this new sickness is. So, yay! So yeah, I don't know. I'm doing better again, but I'm sick again, and I blame John.
Would you say that you are down with the sickness?
I was down with the
Yes.
sickness again. I slept
He's
like
down with the count for the second time.
Were you
We-
miserable?
yeah, I was.
She is.
Ooh.
She's becoming Mrs. Miserable.
I was miserable. We went camping after the races in Jamestown, and I like literally died Saturday night. And like
So,
alcohol,
hey, this is a
alcohol may
perfect
have been
segue.
involved, but for the most part, I died Saturday night.
This is perfect because on the last episode, Mason, I believe we have the clip that Becca was dying. Remember, she was dying last week on the last episode, and now she's officially died and come back to life on this episode.
Becca, how are you doing?
Dying. I died.
It is a podcasting miracle.
She died over the weekend and came back.
Anything's
Wow.
possible if you just sleep enough.
Okay, Kevin Garnett.
God, Mr.
Anything
Miserable,
about-
how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. So we had a really nice weekend of racing. It was a great holiday weekend to remember all of our military personnel as well as the ones that took the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. So it was really nice to see a lot of the tributes that happened throughout this weekend and support for our military personnel with a lot of sporting events. But overall, we got Jamestown started with racing this past weekend. We had a very good night over in Mandan on Friday, and there was a lot of racing action that happened across the state with Cheyenne starting as well on Monday, which was nice to see. And yeah, I'm doing a lot better. Like Becca said, Friday night was a little rough for me. I had some kind of bug going on, was not feeling super well on Friday, had a pounding headache, which I do get headaches, so it's not unusual, but had a big migraine on Friday that just would not let up. Felt better on Saturday after I got some medication, as well for the walk-in, went in, sinus infection, ear infection, crap, some of that stuff going on. Obviously, it's this time of year. So yes, so I am on the mend. So I am improving each day before we hit some big racing action this weekend.
Yeah, that sounds like a mess to deal with. I can't imagine announcing with a migraine and a headache. That doesn't sound fun at all.
I got done on Friday night. So still actually had a lot of fun on Friday night, but got done on Friday night, and Becca was actually sitting there. Brock was on the other side of me. Directly on there one too, and it was so funny because I even told the guys, I said, "Look at this." I'm like, I am done. I was shaking because just with like energy levels, and then obviously with just not feeling well and anything else. I was like, my body was telling me it's enough. You're done. You're done doing things for the night. So yeah, so I definitely wasn't on the bike as much as I usually am on Friday. But it was still a good night overall.
Very good. Well, glad to hear you and Becca both are hopefully on the mend and getting out of this sickness or miserableness, whatever you two may be going through.
Well,
Jessup, how are you doing this week?
Becca's, here, Mason, before we get to Jessup, I mean, Becca's even improving each and every day because she died and came back. So, I mean, she's definitely improving each and every day.
Yeah. So, Jessup, how are you doing with this magical resurgence of Becca?
Between Becca dying and coming back and John being more miserable than normal, it's a miracle that I'm just still as happy as I am. We are having fun, Mason. We're having fun.
That's the important thing. We're having fun.
That's what I had to keep reminding him all weekend when we went camping, because all week I heard, I don't want to go camping. I don't want to go camping. I don't want to go camping. I'm like, we are going to go camping and we're going to have fun.
I never said any of that. I think it was the other way around. I think you were complaining about everything, and I was like, Becca, you're not feeling good.
I love
just need to
Becca
get
on that one too. She looks at Jessup. You are going to have fun.
John heard me say that in the tower because you were griping it. I don't want to go camping. I don't even want to wake up in the morning and go camping. I was like,
I wanted to
go
sleep
camping.
in because you know what was going to happen? Okay, so people don't know this. Becca likes to sit out in the pits until like 4 in the morning.
3 or 4 in the morning.
And
I love
hold
to
on,
catch up with my friends.
Mute her, Mason. Mute her. Now, what the fans don't know is our friend group that was going to go camping wanted to go golfing the next morning. And me not being from North Dakota, I was naive, and Becca said, yeah, where we're camping is near Jamestown. So I'm just sitting there thinking, like, okay, cool. I know there's a campground right outside of Jamestown. I'm sitting there thinking that's the campground we're going to. And so we're driving along, and, Friday night comes, and she's like, yeah, we're in Ashtabula. And I'm like, oh, cool, it's right by Jamestown, right? And she's like, no, it's by Valley City. And I'm like, you're screwing
Another
with
30
me.
miles.
Yeah, you're screwing with me here, babe. Because
I had to sell him on this.
You said it was close to Jamestown. And
I had to
she's
sell
like,
you on this.
It is close to Jamestown, and we're sitting over by the strands, and they're laughing at me at this point, and I responded with, well, hell, if we're gonna have to go all the way to if we're calling Valley City close to Jamestown, we might as well say Steele, North Dakota is close to Jamestown too. And Becca didn't think that was funny. So what the fans don't know is we had a golf tee-off time for 9 o'clock the next morning.
You guys had to drive there in the morning.
Yes. So Becca's like, it'll be okay. It's not that far of a drive. And I'm sitting there. I look at Sean. I go,
Becca drive?
Well, hold on. I look at Sean and I go, Sean, how far is Valley City from here? Like 2 hours or so? He's like, Yeah, about 2 hours and 5 minutes or something like that. And I'm like, I look back, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's already 1 o'clock. And you're going to sleep the whole way there. And I'm going to have to wake up at 6 and drive us out.
Wow. Well, sounds like you had a pretty full week, and I was crazy and did 5 straight nights of racing. I probably didn't need to go to the race on Thursday because I barely made it for the features, but Sunday I was dragging tired, and Monday I slept in until noon, so I pulled a John Breckel.
Neat.
You did. Did you guys know too, according to Mason from this past weekend, that I asked him and I said, hey, he's giving drivers crap about showing up late to the racetrack. And I said, you do realize, Mason, you're half the time late. And he's like, well, no, not usually from some of the North Dakota tracks. And I was like, isn't that like, yeah, that's not accurate. So yeah. So Mason, in other words, you need to become better with your time management.
Well, you're not wrong there. You are definitely onto something there. Well, that's a great way to drop the green flag and officially start episode 14, and we'll get right into who or what are you repping. I'll go back to Becca to start this off. Who or what are you repping for this episode?
Well, I think people already saw what I'm wearing when I had to like defend myself against Jessup's bold-faced lies. But this week I am repping the 99 of Sean Strand, and he ended up picking up the victory over at the Jamestown Speedway on Saturday night, his first win of the 2023 racing season. He's had a great start to his season overall in general, but found victory lane on Saturday over at Jamestown. So just repping the 99 this week.
Very good. Solid sweatshirt. Jessup, who or what are you repping?
Well, Mason, we're continuing on with the trend of irrelevancy as I'm wearing kind of another cool little shirt here today. It is Glenn Gladson Jr. and it's from Iowa. And I'm there's nothing really out there on him. And I'm kind of concerned about that because I was looking him up and he's not even on my race pass from what I could find. And so I had to go into investigator mode. And I found two different Glenn Gladson Juniors. One's dead, and the other one's, well, he got in trouble with the law. And I think he's in jail. So, it's kind of a cool looking shirt. It's got like kind of a Harley Davidson look. Remember, folks, if you ever see any shirt that you say, hey, I would like that shirt, just get a hold of us and we'll find a way to get you one of whichever shirt it is. Or let me clarify, whichever of the irrelevant shirts that I'm wearing. And we'll make sure you get a hold of it. If you see one that you say, hey, that'd be a good shop rig, you get a hold of us and we'll make sure you get one of those shop rig shirts and we'll make sure it gets to you in a nicely diced up matter.
Well, my shirt that I'm repping is definitely not shop rag material because I actually love this shirt, and it actually kind of goes with the colors because, of course, Memorial Day weekend, honoring those we lost. But I am repping the 2022 shirt of Haley Lee, number 58, Wissota Midwest Modified, who had a very, I would say, up and down weekend. She's actually raced 5 nights this weekend. DNF Thursday in Wilmer, runner-up at Fergus Falls, Saturday DNF at Viking Speedway, and won her second career feature win on Sunday at the Viking Speedway. So that was a big win for her, and she also finished off with an 8th place finish at Madison Speedway. So repping the 50H of Haley Lee, it was awesome to see her in victory lane on Sunday. A lot of people were cheering for her, and a lot of happy people on Sunday. So happy to rep Haley Lee today. And that leads us to John Breckel. Who or what are you repping for this episode?
Well, we're continuing the history lesson that we've been going down here the last several weeks. So we're still on that same and straight and narrow path. But I am repping now the 42nd annual Jamestown Stock Car Stampede shirt. It is from 2013. and it has the winners on it from 2012. So the question now to all of you directly that are sitting here is, was 2012 one of the largest years for the Stock Car Stampede?
It was the largest car count, wasn't it?
It was. It was the largest car count, the first time that Jamestown had ever broke the 300 car barrier with 317 cars. They were led with 59 bombers. They had 74 Midwest Modifieds. They had 49 WISSOTA Street Stocks, 29 WISSOTA Super Stocks, 57 WISSOTA Modifieds, 30 WISSOTA Late Models, and they had 19 Hornets. So the Hornets and Sport Compact class was part of the Stock Car Stampede during that year. The racing action on that Saturday night for the Stock Car Stampede, well, Friday night too was definitely hectic, but Saturday night was some really, really, really good feature racing action. We started tonight with, just a great feature within your bomber division. Chad Hassauer ended up winning the bomber feature event back there in 2012. It was a race between him and both of the Gartners. So you had Scott Gartner in the old Mopar wing car, and you actually had John Gartner Jr. driving the same hobby stock that he's driving now at the Stock Car Stampede that year. John led actually a majority of that feature event before he finished in the top 5, and then Chad passed him on the high side with just a few laps remaining. So that was a really good race that year. We also had to go through and find out that the Midwest Modifieds and the Modifieds put on a great race as well. And you had Travis Sauer, who won both of those events that year. Travis started deep in the field in the Midwest Mods. He started 17th in the Midwest Mod feature event and ended up winning. He had a great battle up front with AC the Deuce Arneson was involved within that mix, as well as Josh Eberhardt, Rusty Coleman. So a lot of those guys were involved within that race. And then you also had the modified feature event, which you had Travis on the top side of the racetrack, and you had Blake Griffing on the bottom side of the racetrack. And those two were going at it for the feature win within your modified feature event. Within your street stocks, Zach Frederick won over a very close finish with Duffy Fromke. They were actually side by side at the stripe, to where Zach picked up his first Stock Car Stampede win within the WISSOTA Street Stocks back then. Very nice field of 49 street stocks. Ross Dixon picked up your win within your WISSOTA Super Stocks. And your late models was Jeremy Keller with his first Stock Car Stampede win in the late model division. So congratulations to Jeremy on that, who now we know is Jeremy's very tough in the IMC and modified class. 2013 Stampede, which the shirt is named after. We're going to go into more details on that later on, but it was a very nice and healthy car count for that Stampede as well, which we'll likely hit on here in the next episode.
That's a nice trip down memory lane. When you started listing off the amount of cars in each class, 59 bombers, I'm just like, whoa.
So it's crazy. It was absolutely crazy, the amount of cars that were there that year as part of the Stampede. I actually have a running list of totals for car counts from basically 2000 on for the Stock Car Stampede. That year was the highest that I have on my list so far from the bomber division. Back in 2004, they had 58. So, and I remember that year too. That year they had a lot of bomber competition, but that year too for the Stampede was a big year for the bomber and pure stock division.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's awesome to kind of relive that too. So awesome. Well, that is who or what we are repping for episode 14. And so this week's track pack report is going to be quite hefty, but try to move through it as efficiently as we can. I will briefly touch on Thursday because I literally got there 5 minutes before the first feature came out on the track, kind of due to me switching my oil change to Thursday instead of Tuesday because I had a funeral. But as far as the results go for their season opener out at the KRA Speedway, here were the winners. In your pure stocks, it was Chris Isdahl, number 18, Braden Brower in the WISSOTA Street Stocks, Corey Stork in the Midwest Mods, Tyler Larson in the Mod 4s, Super Stocks went to Dexton Cook, Brady Gers in the Mods, and Justin Shalitsky in the Hornets. And so They kicked off their season, highlighted by a good car count, especially in the Midwest mods. I think they had like 14 and then 17 street stocks on a Thursday night, which that's really good. So those were my takeaways from a very short stint at KRA, which I did not think I was going to make the features there. So moving on to Friday, and all of you at the Dacotah Speedway, I will start with Jessup here. Jessup, how did Friday go from the Dacotah Speedway?
It went good, Mason. We had cars. They went racing. We had winners.
It was, Mason, a rowling good time.
Oh boy. No, overall, Friday was a good night. Good races across all the fields, all the classes. Had some visitors from out west with Jeremy Castro and Troy Seapack Jr. So that's pretty cool. They're really cool guys. Really friendly, really nice to talk to, really upbeat. So definitely it was awesome to have them out here.
And they're fans of the podcast and they
They
listen.
are.
Yep, they
Oh,
are.
sweet.
Yeah, so overall, it was fun having them there. Both did really good at Dacotah Speedway. Jeremy ended up winning, beating and holding off the rest of the field. And then Troy got third. I think they both said that they both went +7 for the night. Or that's what they told me when we were talking after the race. So that's pretty cool. Pretty awesome to have those guys out there and look forward to seeing them coming back again.
Nice. Yeah, that was cool to see. I saw like earlier in the week that Jeremy Castro, I think I'm Facebook friends with him, and he posted like, looking for gears for this track, and he was going to be traveling a lot. And, he, of course, Jeremy was there for the season opener. And so him coming back here was kind of a nice little surprise. And I think it sounds like he might be coming back a couple more times this year at least. So that'll be cool to see.
Yep.
Going to John before Becca covers the results. John, how did Friday go from your standpoint other than be kind of under the weather?
Yeah, so I was a little bit under the weather, but it was actually, I shouldn't say it was maybe a little bit of a blessing, but it kind of was because at certain times throughout the night, I left the tower. I went out of the tower for a little bit, took the wireless mic with me because I was like, you know what, with the way that my head was kind of with the way I was feeling too, I was like, I'm just gonna go sit down on the bottom of the grandstand for a little bit and just kind of watch from down there. So it was a very interesting and kind of nice to actually just kind of sit back and relax and have Brock kind of run the show for a little bit with a lot of the heat races, which kind of put a little bit of pressure off of me from a headache perspective as I went down, took some medication, just some pills, and then came back up. The other thing though too is that it was a good night from racing overall. We had some really good feature events within each one of the classes. Track was in tip-top shape once again, and some basically different winners within Victory Lane, which was nice to see as well. Some guys that were picking up their first win of the season, as well as maybe a couple of wins throughout the season already as well. So that was pretty nice to see down there in the Victory Lane spot, and it was pretty nice to see too that our car counts were still pretty healthy. Good way to start off our 2023 racing season because we're already 3 races deep into the season here for Dacotah Speedway already, which is actually something that's going to be pretty nice to see after the wet May that we had last year.
Absolutely. Yeah, good takeaways. So Becca, who ended up winning, or if you had an additional takeaway, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a good weekend of racing. As John and Jessup already mentioned, great competition in all of our feature races. We had 86 cars check in the back pit gate, a little lower for Dacotah Speedway standards, but I chalk it up to being a graduation weekend. Some of our drivers graduated from high school, Memorial Day weekend. So a lot of people like to go camping or hit up the river here. That's huge here in the Bismarck Minden area. And also, I think we may have lost some of our travelers just because it was just a big weekend of racing all around. Like many tracks that if they hadn't started racing, they opened up over this past weekend. So a little bit lower car counts, but the great racing action that we had on the track made up for it. So it worked out just fine. We had 3 sport comp packs on Friday night, and this goes back to my what do you call them on TV where they're like, don't drink and drive and buckle up. What do they call those things?
Is it a plea you're trying to do?
Sure, I'll make a plea right here, right now. If you drive an IMCA Sport Compact in the state of North Dakota or nearby, come race at Dacotah Speedway. The racing was fine, but it could be great with more cars on the track. So we had 3 sport compacts. Paul Shu kind of ran away with that feature race when the green flag waved. He held off Alex Thompson and Chris Yost. Chris Yost has had a great start to his racing season, but I think he maybe missed the
Off a
setup.
little bit this weekend.
He was a little off on Friday night, and he was your last place finisher in 3rd place. But I think he'll be fine in the point standings. In the hobby stock division, Derek Appert moved up through the field and made a late race pass on Jeremy Engelhardt to run away with the feature victory in the hobby stock division, our 3rd different winner in that racing division this year. In the Inex Legends, it was a great battle up front between Austin Wiest and Donovan Wiest. Those two were battling side by side for a majority of the race until Donovan finally cleared that position. He started to pull away, but I wonder if the handling was starting to go away on that car at the very, very end, because Preston Martin started catching him in a hurry, and he made it quite a dicey finish to the finish line. Donovan Wiest just barely edged Preston Martin at the finish line to pick up his first victory of the season at Dacotah Speedway. Another different winner in that racing division, 3 different winners in the Inex Legends. Then moving on to the Wissota Street Stocks, as Jessup alluded to, Jeremy Castro and his buddy Troy Seapack Jr. came to visit us at the Dakota Speedway on Friday night. Jeremy got to the front pretty quickly, but he had his hands full with a very fast Jeff Hellman. He had to hold him off to take home the victory on Friday night. Troy Seapack made a last lap pass to finish 3rd ahead of Hunter Dalmagala, who is your points leader in that racing division. So great battles up front in that racing division. And then in your IMC Modifieds, Jeremy Keller was the one to beat on Friday night. I had to double check myself there. But yeah, he ran away with that feature event. He started pretty far in the back of the pack, but some mid-race cautions really, really helped him get to the front in a hurry. And once he did, he just ran away with it. So, but overall, another different winner in our IMC Modified. So we've had some nice diversity in our racing divisions so far this year at Dakota Speedway, and overall great racing. So it was a good
And
weekend.
of course, I always watch the Dakota Speedway broadcast just because I love listening to John and Brock on the mic too, and especially the street stock race. That was a lot of really good 3-wide racing. That was a fun race to watch. I know, shout out to Chris Welk Jr. too, was leading a lot of that race early. It always looked like he was going to be tough to catch without a caution, and unfortunately kind of bunched the field back up. So
Chris has had a very, very, very nice start to the season, and we'll talk about further about that too with the Jamestown results. But I mean, he's had a really good start to the season.
Yeah. So awesome to hear that you had another good night over at Mandan on Friday. I went over to the I-94 EMR Speedway on Friday night. They had their meet and greet night, which is, of course, one of my favorite nights because I get to collect a whole bunch of hero cards for myself and you guys too. I did get a few for you guys.
Oh.
Okay, let's back up here really quick, people. So this is just so unfair. Anytime that Jessup, Becca, or myself go into the pits, get cards, we make sure we get enough for each and every one of us. And then we have Mason, who maybe gets 1 card for himself for sure, but I might actually need 1 more else. So he gets maybe 1 other one for one of us. So we all have to like pick and choose on which one we're gonna get.
Well, to be fair, Becca is never really interested in hero cards, so that eliminates 1 more that I have to collect.
So
because
what's
I'm
your
always picking up
excuse, then?
after Jessup.
That's not true. I've picked up after myself real nicely. But John brings up a valuable point. Mason is super shy about going up to drivers, and
this is true.
He doesn't like talking to drivers, folks. He may seem like it on the outside when you approach him, but he is definitely an introvert. He does not like talking, or at least going up to people and talking to them. It's quite concerning, John, but he's coming out of his shell, and
he is.
He's blooming into a nice little wandering person in the pits who likes to get 1 hero card strictly for himself and then say that there weren't any others for anybody else.
Yep. Oh, they ran out. They only had 1.
They had only 1 from their new packet.
Yep. Only one. They opened up a brand new package and there was only one card in there.
Cody Papke only gave them one card.
So
Mason.
as much BS as they're feeding on this whole me being shy, there is a little bit of truth in that. I am a little shy when it comes to asking for hero cards because I've gotten older. So I'm like, I know they're kind of meant for like kids, but I'm still a big race fan at heart and I love collecting cards. So
I'm with Mason on that. It's like socially awkward going up to a person you don't know and they're like, "Hey, you got any cards?"
well, and it doesn't help
Gosh,
too that I'm
people.
like stalking Cody Papke's page, for example, and seeing all the pictures he's posting.
You guys
You
just
know-
have to get better at it. There
I
was
think the
one
best-
night.
Exactly.
There was
think
one
the
night
best-
last year. If it wasn't last year, I think it was last year, to where in Jamestown they had the meet and greet up front. I think it was kids' night, so everybody came up front. They all had their cars out there directly. Mason sent me a message like, "Can you get me cards?" I said, "Sure." I said, "I have no problem with that." So before the night started, I started on the end of the line and went down the line with each one of the drivers, and I was like, "Hey, do you have any cards? I need one for Mason as well." "Oh yeah, here you go." I said, "Thank you." And then I went to the next person. "Hey, good luck tonight. Do you have any cards? I need one for Mason as well." "Oh yeah, here you go." I was like, "Perfect. Have a good night and have good luck." And then on to the next person. See, it's not hard. You just have to be more vocal.
See,
I-
John, I
I
think
also-
the best one. Oh, go ahead, Becca.
I was gonna say,
Go
I
ahead, Becca.
also have no problem getting hero cards from drivers.
Same.
I
Really?
don't. It's just it feels awkward to me. And granted, like the meet and greet at I-94 was easy because they were all in the line, so it was easy to just go like hero card, hero card, hero card, hero card. Thank you.
Well, yeah, but see, then you don't have to talk to the drivers.
Right.
It's better
Some of
when you
them
go
just
into the
leave them
pits
on
and
the
have
car
to
and
talk
it's
to the
really
drivers.
easy.
I think I saw the best one when we were down at Daytona when we were watching we had the infield pass and we were on top of the garage and I literally saw one of the guy, just one of the fans or one of the VIP guys running down the row of cars, and in front of each trailer there's like a little stand with a little holder on with cards, and this guy's literally running by him just mine, 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 mine. And we ended up walking to the other side, and this guy's still running down the one stretch of haulers, and then it looped to the other side, and sure enough, here comes the guy. Mine, 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 mine. And he went through the entire thing. And I laughed. And I'm like, I bet Mason would like that.
I would, because like even World of Outlaws, if you've ever been in the pits during a World of Outlaws race, they usually have
Yes.
them on the back of their like tail fin or whatever that is
Yep.
called. And it's just easy to just grab one and go.
Yeah.
Well, it's even like when we were down in Huset's when they reopened too. A lot of that was the same way. A lot of them had them just right there on the tailgates of the cars, so you just went and walked through and grabbed them. I know you would just have grabbed a ton that night when you were down there.
Yeah.
We had a lot of winnings that night.
Now, race fans, the winnings is the technical term that Mason uses on a nightly
He
average
gets more
of
cards.
yes, if whatever he gets, he's considering it winnings.
If he gets more than 25, it's a winning.
Yeah.
If he gets less, it's an okay. But if he gets less than 10, it's a loss for the night.
Yep. So remember, if you see Mason, give him something, whether it's
Yes.
loose change, or a picture, or a hero card, or a shop towel, something.
Yes, I mean he needs to have something to keep his morale up during race season.
All right, let's keep moving so Mason doesn't have too much to edit.
Right. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the main takeaway I had outside of the racing from I-94 was a meet and greet night, which is a cool meet and greet night too. I was finally able to get to one there. But getting to the winners here real quick. In the Midwest Mods, Jaron Webstead, one of the guys we know pretty well, got his first win at the I-94 EMR Speedway. Obviously, he's won other places, but had a great battle with Haley Lee there. Derek Quinn won the Gen X late models. Street stocks went to Braden Brower. The Wasota late models went to Josh Zimpel, who's been knocking on the door of I don't know if that was that his first career win? I don't know for sure. I forgot to check.
Don't know
that.
either.
But he's been knocking on the door of a win. And so he got one on Friday night. And then Matthew Dittman won the short trackers. And so relatively quick night over at I-94, considering the long intermission with the meet and greet, but very good racing overall. So then moving on to Saturday, which I'll bounce it back over to the Bismarck, Manda, and Folk, as all three of you were in Jamestown. So, Becca, how did Jamestown go from your perspective?
Sorry.
Okay, that's the second time I have to throw a caution.
That is
on
like
you.
a time it is now.
Yeah!
Caution, flag time. She's been on mute
She's got the
a lot
caution
tonight.
Nobody wants to hear me sniffle. Okay, anyways, no, Jamestown I thought went really well. Very healthy car counts in all of the racing divisions. Other than the rollovers, I thought it was a very smooth night. And one thing I did, I thought obviously they have a really good first responder group over at this Jamestown Speedway. But during one of the rollovers, I think it was for the INEX Legend one, I applaud them for the first responders for thinking on their feet, because they actually blocked the car from the crowd just in case that there was something seriously wrong with the driver, but there wasn't, and he hopped out because he's a young whippersnapper, and I'm sure he felt sore the next day, but at the moment I think he was fine. And so I thought that was I applaud them for doing that, because I don't think enough tracks do that, just in case there would be something wrong with the driver, whether they're injured or worse. I was very impressed with the Jamestown Speedway first responder crew over the weekend.
Very good. Yeah, I heard it was an action-packed night in more ways than one, unfortunately. Jessup, what were you doing on Saturday night in Jamestown in particular, and what were your takeaways?
Well, I was attending racing in Jamestown at the Jamestown Speedway. My duties were to help with official race calls and to keep an eye on areas of question and assist where need be, just like how I have been in the past. And I enjoyed my time out in the middle of the racetrack by myself. It was nice, but it was good overall. It was good. Modified class had some surprise visitors. I thought that was pretty exciting. Logan Schmitz and Marcus Tomlinson both had really good nights. Yeah, it was really good. Sean Strand came over, so that was pretty cool to see him there, and he picked up a nice win. And the racing was good. Track was a little tricky to read from the driver's perspective, I would say. My heart just dropped when Criswell flipped, because he's been having a really good year in that street stock. And, I was glad he walked away from the wreck, but it was one of those things where it doesn't just hurt one track, but it hurts three tracks, because he was a big supporter of three tracks in our area. And that was kind of disappointing. And for him to really step his game up this year in the Wissota Street Stock division, I felt bad for them, because it takes a lot of wind out of the sails, and he's going to have to start over from pretty much step one and get another car going. So, but you know what? The main thing that we can take away from it is he walked away. He was okay, and he gets to race another day whenever that day comes.
Before John goes into great detail about each and every racing action in every feature event of Jamestown Speedway racing, so there were two nasty rollovers on Saturday night. The reason my heart goes out to Chris Welk Jr. He built that car. That wasn't like he went out and bought it. He built that car from the ground up. So when you spend all winter building a brand new car and to roll it in his third weekend out, that's just heartbreaking. Obviously, okay, fine, Jessup, roller, whatever. No, I saw it creeping, so I thought for sure you were gonna throw the yellow flag on me, but whatever.
I don't want to do a premature caution.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Anyways,
but I believe that car came. I could be wrong here, so don't throw a caution if I'm wrong here. But I heard that the car came originally from Wisconsin, and they did overhaul the entire car. So they did go from the ground up.
Okay, so yeah, well, I have Chris on Snapchat, so I've seen all winter his progress of him Do you have Chris Wilk Jr. on Snapchat? Did you get to see him build that car up? I don't think so. I did. Anyways,
Tell him.
that's why my heart goes out to him. My heart also goes out to Talon Seekerson, who also was the other rollover on Saturday night. And his first race out, that's not exactly how you want to start your racing career either. But yeah, tough break for those two. But John, will you go into the great details of Saturday night racing at Jamestown Speedway?
Well, so I've got my binder in front of me here with all of the results and everything else.
I'll be back, Mason. This
Even
could
my
take a while.
write-ups.
This
Yep,
is a
this might
bathroom
take
break
a good,
moment.
55 minutes, but I promise it won't be an hour. So, no, so it was a good night overall. Like Becca said, the car count was pretty good. We had 105 cars in Jamestown on opening night. It was actually fun to watch some of the different dynamics. Slingshots, we had 6 of them. There was AJ Matsky that ended up winning in the slingshots. The bomber division, which had 20 cars, I was extremely happy with 20 cars, and a lot of new talent in that class too, because you had Trip Nelson move up, you had Gavin Edinger move up, and then you have a couple other rookies in that division too. So that'll actually be a class that'll be fun to watch and grow. Quint Irish is also in that class as well. But within that class, great battle up front. It had carnage happen with about 5 laps to go. The top 5 all went off of the top of turns 3 and 4 as they got tangled up behind a lap car, and only 2 of them survived out of the top 5. So Seth Keller ended up winning the feature event, his first one over in Jamestown. So that was kind of cool to see too, with him. And then Kelby Anderson was second. He survived that carnage that was over there as he was running, I believe, 6th or 7th before that all happened. Tough breaks though for like Jaden Michelson, as well as Joe Jacobson and Travis Ettinger. They were all taken out in that wreck. And then as well as Billy Carroll. Billy was running up front that whole feature event and had a flat tire from that wreck as well when everybody went off the top of 3 and 4 and rejoined the tail of the field and came from there. So, yep. So, but besides that, super excited to see what the bomber division does this year, because looks like we've got a healthy crop of drivers in that class as well, especially for like the special upcoming here with the Mama Vetter Challenge Series for the hobby stocks, which is going to be starting on June 17th. First night is over in Jamestown. Now, in your Midwest Mod division, they went clean and green. They had 17 cars. Lucas Rodin, the Nightmare, picked up and where he left off at the end of last year and ended up winning the feature event. So he had a very nice start to his season as well. I believe this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken, Lucas picked up 3 out of 4 feature wins. So he's going to be tough again here for national points contention. In your Legends race actually ended early. They went over their time limit. There's a minute per lap, very similar like Dacotah Speedway. They went over their time limit and ended up with carnage at the end when Talon Seekerson rolled. The Seekerson boys, they were just young kids that are coming up through the ranks as well. Their dad, Corey, used to run for many, many, many years in a class over in Jamestown across the state of North Dakota as well. And both Talon and his brother were basically racing for the first time on the big track, and they actually looked pretty decent before the rollover happened. They were keeping the cars pretty straight. They were right there, and then obviously just had a little bit of mix up, and Talon touched the front straightaway wall and rolled it down the front straightaway. So tough break for him. It was Donovan Weist, Mason, who has a very different paint scheme that we're not used to, ended up winning in a dark blue and green car. So that took a little bit of time to get used to, and we can show a picture of it on here too. But Donovan was the one that ended up winning, and then Alex Kikowski was second. So those 2 drivers, obviously some of the cream of the crop in the Legends division. Preston Martin was in 3rd. So it'll be kind of a nice year to see about the points battle over there in Jamestown too, with some of these top runners around the state of North Dakota. In your streets, we had a hard-fought battle up front, but it was basically all Billy Carroll. Or Billy Christ. Sorry, you should throw the caution on me on that one. For Billy Christ. Yep, I deserve a caution flag on that one. But Billy Christ was in another zip code when it came to the street stock feature. Jeff Hellman and him started up front. Those 2 both had wins last year at Jamestown, and Billy he left the field. he was never seriously challenged for that feature win, and picked up the feature win on Saturday night. Like Beck had mentioned earlier, tough break to Chris Wilk Jr. Chris was running 3rd. They had a restart. You guys have probably seen the video maybe a little bit on Facebook. It's been going around. And he got too high coming out of turn number 4 on the front straightaway, clipped the wall, and barrel rolled it right by the flag stand. So tough break for Chris. He was having a great run before that. He had been in the top 5 all night. In his heat race, he almost picked up the heat race win. And yeah, so just tough break for Chris. But like Justin mentioned earlier, both Jeremy Castro and Troy Seapack Jr. from Montana were over there as well. Jeremy had a nice run within the top 4. Dustin Erickson had a nice run in the top 3. And then obviously Jeff Hellman in second, and Billy Christ was your feature winner. And in your modifieds, we had went through, and also Sean Strand picked up where he left off last year. Interesting tidbit about Sean. Sean has actually been over at Jamestown for the last 3 races that have happened, which includes season championship from last year, Stock Car Stampede, and now season opener. He has ended up in victory lane on all 3 of those. So he is basically undefeated in Jamestown in his last 3 starts. So Sean has got Jamestown figured out, and has been running really well over at the Jamestown Speedway. Picked up the feature win. One thing that you do not see too often on Saturday night was we had a really strong field of modified drivers over there too, with a lot of talent. You had Colin Hibden in the field. Colin won his heat race in an exciting battle with John Correll. And then in the feature, Colin got up to second, was running the high side, and blew it off the top of 3 and 4, something that you do not see Colin do very often, and had to restart tail end and ended up 4th in the feature event for the final rundown. But great runs as well to Lucas Rodin. He's got a brand new IMC modified, and he was working the bottom, and he started 12th and finished 2nd. So, I mean, a good job to Lucas within that feature event. Marcus Tomlinson had a great run in the top 3. Logan Schmitz was in the top 7. He ran up towards the front most of that feature event, kind of slipped back a little bit at the end because it was a really good battle between Colin and Josh Eberhardt. Eberhardt was back as well in a IMC modified in the top 5. And then Jordan Sowers, who picked up his feature win over at the Red River Valley Speedway in Fargo on Friday, first one in a modified, finished in the top 6. So he had a nice run over there in Jamestown as well on Saturday night. But yeah, overall it was a good night of racing action. Tough break for several drivers because there was definitely some carnage that happened on Saturday night with just first time on the track this year, a season opener, and just a lot of tough racing, like Jessup said, as well during the heat races. Track conditions were definitely a little bit tricky. They were nicer in the feature events after they farmed the track as a whole. But yeah, I'm excited to see how the season goes in Jamestown here for 2023.
Yeah, it sounded like a really fun night in Jamestown. Unfortunately for you, John, I have to throw another caution on you. Who won the slingshots?
AJ Matsky.
Ah, okay. You forgot the slingshots.
Oh no.
Well,
Oh no,
with
Mason.
that being-
Mason, this is caution on you because I started my results with the slingshots.
Did he?
It was a very
Yes.
brief mention.
Okay, that's a caution
Yep.
on me then, because I was
Oh, yes.
not here.
Caution on Mason.
I'm just gonna say this as your podcast flag man. That is over our 3rd caution. We were under black and yellow conditions. Unless I get a caution,
well
and then,
warranted.
unless
This
I
is
get a
very, very
caution and
true.
then I get an extra one, because that's how it works.
I think I
Also-
should get my caution flag back because if
Yeah, you only
everything
have
that
one
happened with
caution.
Mason.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yes.
have one.
Mhm.
So does everybody have a caution now, Mason, besides me?
Besides you, yes.
So, speaking of all the carnage over at the Jamestown Speedway this past weekend, before we filmed tonight's Track Tracker podcast, we got together and filmed some non-controversial podcast episodes that you guys can all check out on Mason Aaron's Patreon page. And one of the discussion topics tonight was the Jamestown Speedway wall. Should we keep it as it is, leave it in its place as the same old wall that we all know and love, or maybe some drivers hate, or do we take it out? It's caused a lot of it's wrecked a lot of cars. Took 2 more this weekend. Should we
True.
take it out? It led to some very spirited discussions, and you guys can all check that out on Mason's Patreon page.
It was a spirited discussion. That's definitely true. It was a fun discussion. It's kind of interesting to get different vantage points on certain topics that may be controversial or non-controversial. So that's what we like to do on the Patreon side of things. Awesome. Well, thanks for the recap on Jamestown for Saturday. Glad that they finally got their season opened and had a good solid showing there. So Saturday and Sunday I was at the Viking Speedway. Main ticket was the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour, which I'm very close with and kind of following that in great detail. And so it was a really good time. On Saturday, we had 31 street stocks. They were representing 4 different states, and then 32 on Sunday. And so really, really diverse field of cars. I was actually really impressed, particularly with the travelers from Wisconsin. We had about a half dozen travelers from Wisconsin, including Nick Trainer. I think that was the biggest shock to me. Nick Trainer's won multiple little dream races over at Rice Lake, and seeing him over there. Sam Fankhauser announced early in the year that he was going to follow a lot of the tour. And so seeing them over there, of course, we had Ty Agan and Colby Keel, some of the people that have been there before. And so very good field of cars to go along with the local contingent that's already there in Alexandria. So that was the main ticket on hand Saturday and Sunday. And kind of the theme for Saturday and kind of the theme for this weekend too was very hot and windy around the region. And so it made route track prep really difficult for some places. And so for the most part, the racing was really good. It rubbered up a little bit at the end of Saturday night's race, but Sunday nights, the features were awesome in Alexandria. The track was in great racing condition. And so, hi, shout out to Malaka that just appeared up behind me. So
Malaka sighting.
It's that time of night. Apparently she's out on the prowl. But anyways, getting into the Saturday results from Viking Speedway, starting in the Midwest Mods, Taylor Bitson won in front of Sean Olson. The street stocks went to Nick Trainer, made a late race pass on Justin Volkel to get his first Street Stock Tour feature win. The short trackers went to Cole Campson for the second race in a row. He was the beneficiary of a post-race disqualification because the original winner, Hunter Goulet, lost his muffler during the race, and that's an automatic disqualification. So Cole Campson, the beneficiary for 2 races in a row at Viking Speedway. The supers went to Jeff Krause, who went winless in 2022. So he got back into victory lane. And then the mods, which was a very crazy finish because with the track taking rubber, right rear tires were taking a beating. And so the original leader was Dusty Bitson, and he led until about the last half of the race. And before that, second place running Travis Sauer blew a right rear with about 2 to go. Brady Gertis, who inherited second, blew a tire coming to the white. And then Dusty Bitson, who had blown the right rear on the last half a lap, got passed by Jason Tennis coming through 3 and 4 for the win. And so quite the crazy finish in the mods on Saturday. So it was definitely entertaining to say the least, but probably not from a lot of the driver's standpoint. So then moving on to Sunday with awesome feature racing there. Haley Lee, like I mentioned before, picked up a very popular Midwest Mod feature win. The street stocks went to Justin Vogel, who kind of got redemption from the first night, held off 2 young bucks in Ty Agan and Colton Brower. The short trackers, Hunter Goulet got redemption by getting the short tracker win. Supers went to a first-time feature winner in Carson Miller. He talked to him after the race. The last time he won was in the pure stock days like 7-8 years ago. So very good run for Carson Miller. He looked really good. That was a really good race in the supers. And then Travis Sauer got the win in the mods over Brady Gertis. So great weekend of racing in Alexandria. That was a really fun weekend of racing, both nights, I would say. And then to finish off the weekend, go ahead, Jess.
Got
John?
a question.
Yep.
So, and it's more Travis Sauer related stuff too. So does Travis or Ron Sauer still have their second car that Travis ran as Midwest Mod and won the 100 with?
That's a good question. I actually haven't seen it out this year yet.
Same. I haven't yet either. So that's why I was kind of wondering if he still has it and is planning on still running it here or there, or if he's just going to focus on the mod this year.
Well, now that I think about it, I feel like Travis has won a Midwest Mod race early this year. I could be wrong on that. I'll kind of check that later on in the show. But yeah, because I know Travis was kind of doing mainly Midwest Mod at Viking and on occasion at I-94 last year. But so far, I've just seen him just focus on one car.
Same. I've only seen him in the mod so far this year, so that's why I was kind of curious.
Maybe our Track Packer podcast researcher person could look that up for us.
Yeah, the inside researcher.
What do you want me to look up?
It's Travis
He
Sauer.
He wasn't even listening.
He wasn't even listening.
He was doing his inside research.
I am. But you need to tell me what to research, and I will be
Never mind.
researching.
You missed the moment.
The moment has passed.
The moment has passed.
That's okay.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of other
But it's
opportunities
okay.
for
If
inside
it's
research.
like Becca, it'll come back to life. It'll
Look,
be fine.
if I let the moment pass, I can't get caution flagged. It's okay.
This is true.
We're just disappointed.
Although we
that's
could
all.
caution flag you for not paying attention.
He could.
It's like not having like the receiver in your car.
There were a lot of
True.
people this
Which
weekend
actually could be a
without
disqualifier.
receivers.
Yeah.
Or like even transponders.
They didn't get disqualified this weekend at a couple tracks.
Well, it's early in the season. They're way more forgiving. As it gets later in the season, we can't be as forgiving.
This is true.
They
So-
must die.
Okay, Mason. So now on to your next event, which was Monday.
Monday finished off the hectic Memorial Day weekend, and it ended on a great note with the Memorial Day program over at Sheyenne Speedway. The last 2 years have been unfortunately canceled due to the weather, but we were able to get the full race program in. They do Memorial Day parade laps, and they actually were led by an old, I don't remember if it's a hobby stock or a street stock, but Jeff Fromke, late Jeff Fromke, his car kind of got like refurbished and led the field for all the features and also for the parade laps, which is a really cool sight. Very popular with the local crowd in Lisbon. And so that was a cool sight to see. Nice to see all the cars come out on the track and make a few parade laps before the program started. So yeah, I would say very good program for Cheyenne on their opener. They did a little reshaping to their track, kind of adding a little bit of banking to the top, and it turned into a very top preferred groove track. Like that's something we haven't really seen at Cheyenne in quite some time. And so that's encouraging to see. And now they're kind of figuring out how to get the bottom to fire just as much as the top to kind of expand the racing all across the track. And so very encouraging signs from Cheyenne from their opener. And so getting to the results for Monday night, starting off in the Legends, guy that's been on a hot streak as of late, Cody Mackart in the Legends held off Evan Hendrickson, who also has been on a little bit of a hot streak, and Glenn Mitchell. So good run for Cody Mackart in the Legends. Hobbies was kind of an attrition battle. I only had 7 cars, but through a series of cautions and unfortunate mechanical failures, Jaden Michelson was the early leader, but he went out under caution with smoke from his car. And so that inherited the lead to Kelby Anderson, who held on for the feature win, who actually had a pretty good weekend, finishing runner-up in Jamestown. So good weekend for Kelby Anderson in the 2K. Midwest Mods went to Lucas Rodin. That wasn't really without any drama, as he got involved with a lap car spinning out in front of him, which kind of looked like it could have messed out his toe and damage, but was able to continue and hold on for the feature win. Street Stocks was a very good battle. Trey Hess, who started on the outside pole, held off a bunch of challenges from several competitors, including Tucker Peterson, Kyle Anderson, Johnny Carter, who was in a brand new looking car, and I believe it's a new stealth chassis, but
it's a new car as well. Yep.
Yeah, if you recognize Johnny Carter with a little bit of green in the years past, that's not the case this year. It is a way different scheme, and so it looks really sharp in person too. If you ever get to see that car in person, oh my goodness, it's gorgeous. But Trey Hess got his first Sheyenne Speedway win. He was part of a traveling contingent that went down to Casino the night before, and so those guys had a really good weekend. So congrats to Trey Hess on the win there. Mods, they had 6 mods, a little bit low on the car count for the Wissota mods, but they put on a really good show. They were racing 3 wide for the lead for a couple laps, throwing sliders and several different leaders, including Mike Stearns, Joseph Thomas, and Dustin Strand. And Joseph Thomas, who's been fast out of the gate, got the win in the Wissota mods. And then the mini stocks went caution free with Mason Bogart in the 97 picking up the win there to cap off the opener down in Lisbon, North Dakota at the Sheyenne Speedway. And so that concluded a very, very busy Memorial Day weekend. And so we only have a few days to recover before heading into this next weekend's worth of racing. But what is the racing taking place in North Dakota, Mr. Dakota Dirt, for this weekend?
Oh my goodness, Jessup, but you can't forget about Dakota Dirt Race fans and drivers and everybody out there that is racing related, because guess what? It is your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing, news, results, recaps, weather forecasts, and much more. Again, check them out. They are social as well on social media platforms, so you can check them out on Facebook. You can also go through and check them out on their website, which is dakotadirt.org. So again, Dakota Dirt, your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news and much more.
Thank you, John. Well, it's going to be another busy week of racing action in North Dakota. It's kind of kicking off the early season of higher paying invitational races. I wouldn't say invitational race. I would say maybe more of a special race. Dacotah Speedway has a test and tune Thursday night, June 1st. And that is kind of the kickoff to their Ironman 100. And then it all gets going June 2nd. Dacotah Speedway has their night 1 of their Ironman 100, where it's going to be twin qualifying, 1,000 to win, modified feature races, along with, I believe it's going to be a 40-lap Wissota street stock race, and along with their hobby stocks. River Cities, no hobby stocks.
Next Legends.
Oh yeah, Legends. Okay.
They're gonna
They-
race for 25 laps.
Anyways, River Cities will be racing as well. They will be just south of River Cities will be the Red River Valleys Speedway. I believe they're holding a modified special this week as well, or at least that's what it read on their schedule. So it's kind of weird that they're going to be holding a modified special and then holding another modified special the upcoming week after. But you do you, boo boo, and hopefully it works out for you. Anyways, going on to June 3rd, Dacotah Speedway will be finishing up with night 2 of their Ironman 100 special with their big 5,000 to win 100 lap IMCA modified feature, along with IMCA Sport Compacts and IMCA Sport Mods. And I don't think there's anything else. I'm forgetting something.
And hobby stocks.
Oh yeah, the hobby stocks got put to that night. That's so I don't know why I get those mixed up. Anyways, moving on. Jamestown will be hosted by one Johan Berkale, as he will be over there announcing along with the crew there for their night of racing. Thunder Mountain will look to get their second night of the race season in, along with Devil's Lake Speedway, who I believe is holding the Western Renegades with wings for the only time of the year. So that should be kind of a unique show for that series. Then June 4th is the Nodex Speedway. They are continuing to iron things out and definitely coming off a good topless race this past Monday. So that's what this week's looking like, Mason.
Yep. So it's a busy weekend, but compared to Memorial Day weekend, I feel like it's thinned down a little bit, which is kind of nice.
Yep.
Yep. And so outside of the state in the region, on Thursday, we have Huron. Dakota State Fair Speedway is hosting the Tri-State Late Models. And so that should be a pretty good show for them. KRA Speedway is continuing their season, as well as the Victory Lane Speedway up in Winnipeg. Friday, the Tri-State Late Model Series goes to Brown County Speedway. And then the Fiesta City Speedway is racing on Friday with a Pure Stock special. They are, and I believe mods are off from that Friday. And I-94 EMR Speedway is hosting their first night of the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour in the prelude to the Dick Johannick. I believe that is it Dick Johannick and King of the Dirt kind of associated as the same event.
I wouldn't know. They bring everybody for that event.
Yeah.
Mason.
Well, Saturday's their second night of that, where they have a lot of stuff going on, a big heavy payout for that. NRA is joining them on Saturday for that race and second night of the Street Stock Tour as well. Huron's racing again. I believe that's another Tri-State Late Model race on Saturday down in Huron. Greenbush, Minnesota, Madison Speedway, North Central, and Viking Speedway's actually got autocross going on, but those three, and then Ogilvy Raceway has the World of Outlaws sprint cars showing up to their facility on Saturday. So that should be a fun new venture for them, because I don't believe they've had World of Outlaws sprint cars there before, or it's been several years.
I don't think they've had them there before, because I think they just had a post out on Facebook stating it's their first time there.
Yeah. Oh, it's Granite City that's had them.
Yeah.
Granite City's had them. Gotcha. All right. And then Sunday, it is Bemidji Speedway continuing their season. Buffalo River Speedway also hosting a night of the Street Stock Tour, and Casino Speedway is racing as well. So plenty of racing to take place for the first weekend of June. Can you believe it's already June? Gosh. Everyone was asking me, like, where are you going in the next few weeks? I'm like, oh gosh, it's almost June. I literally planned out my month of May and I didn't look anywhere past, and I'm like, oh. So kind of in a scramble mode.
Already June time frame.
Yeah.
Yep.
Picking up like crazy now that most all tracks are open. There's still one or two that haven't opened yet, and we're hoping they get open pretty soon. So to put the finishing touches on episode 14, we would like to thank our other sponsor, Mr. Hot Sauce Sandro, Isaac, in the 12S IMCA Modified driver out of Turtle Lake. If you're ever in the pits, go visit his trailer. They usually have a whole bunch of goodies as far as great treats cooked by Mama Sandro or Grandma Barb, especially, which congratulations to Grandma Barb for being nominated to get into the Nodak Speedway Hall of Fame. I know she's been on the ballot for the last few years. And so, go say hi to Isaac. He might have his hot sauce there for you to try out. I know Becca likes some spiciness on her food as long as it's not green. So be sure to stop by and say hi to Isaac. And thank you so much, Mr. Sandro, for supporting us on the podcast. Wins of the week. Anyone got any wins of the week? Actually, I want to go first on wins of the week.
I want to go first. I went last week.
I never get to go first on wins of the week, and I'm taking this one before anyone else does because I'm giving another shout out to Haley Lee in the 50H. She has been so close to getting feature wins, whether it's mechanical troubles or just other bad luck. It was awesome to see her in victory lane. She wasn't even considering coming back on Sunday to Viking Speedway. I think she was very frustrated with the way Saturday went, and she had a really good race over on I-94 on Friday, and so it was awesome to see her have such a great weekend overall, considering the DNFs outside of that. And then I would say my other win of the weekend goes to particularly the Wisconsin street stock drivers that traveled. I mean, I got to hang out with them for 2 straight nights, and they had a blast. It was so awesome to hear their feedback on just racing over towards our neck of the woods. They say the racing here is so much fun, and they get to race good, hard, clean racing all around here. And so they're excited to kind of race a little bit more here during the summer. So shout out to all the Wisconsin street stock drivers that made the long trip over. And so now you can fight over who wants to go next on wins of the week. Jessup, since you put up the biggest fit, you go next.
Good. I would like to give a shout out to the Beater family, as Max and Brock both won. Max got his first IMCA hobby stock victory at the Southwest Speedway, and then Brock got his win, and it was kind of a cool deal there because their father was on the call for announcing as Brandon was making all the announcing there, and Jenny was behind the camera. So truly a family affair there, where it's everything that could possibly go right went right. So that was pretty cool. That's my first one. So Beater family, you get number 1. Number 2 is going to go out to Ben Mickelson, picking up a very nice Wasota late model feature win for, I believe it was, John, correct me, I think it was 3,000 to win.
Yeah,
3,000.
I want to say too.
Yeah, 40 laps, 3,000 to win. Definitely no slouches at that race with Turnbull in there, and then a bunch of our Western late model guys were making the tow. And definitely a cool race that they got in, because it looked like it was going to rain the entire day there, and they kept packing it in, and definitely paid off for Ben. So that was an awesome win, number 2. And my last win is going to go to Jeremy Castro, getting a nice win at the Dacotah Speedway.
Yep. And he had a pretty good weekend overall with all the traveling he did.
Yep.
So good solid wins there. Becca or John, which one of you two want to go next? Becca, go ahead.
All right. Jessup stole one of mine. I was gonna just give a shout out to Max Beater on collecting his first win, but he beat me to it. I will go with, I have a nice little list here. So my first win of the week will go to Gage Mather, who held off his brother Noah to pick up his first career victory in the INX Legends. Jessup, I believe it was you just about a week or 2 ago who said to keep an eye out on the Mather boys. Well, one of them broke into victory lane, and it was Gage to pick up his very first victory in the INX Legends over at the Southwest Speedway on Saturday night. My next win of the week will go to Lucas Rodin, as John alluded to earlier in the podcast. If you guys picked up on it, he had quite the weekend in his Wissota Midwest Modified, picking up 3 wins. The only race he did not win, he got second in. So he had 3 wins and a second in the Midwest Modified over this past weekend. And he also had a pretty good turnout with his IMCA Modified as well, as he finished runner-up over at the Jamestown Speedway with that car. So a good weekend for Lucas Rodin. And then my third win of the week will go to Daryl Parsons. Now, people are going to be like, who is Daryl Parsons? Well, Daryl Parsons has been an IMCA Modified driver locally to the Dacotah Speedway for many years now. And he put together one heck of a run this past Friday night. He started on the pole for his heat race. He led practically the whole thing, but the last couple laps, he finished second. That put him on the front row for his feature event. And I think a lot of people expected him just to drop like a rock. That was not the case. He led the first couple of laps, gave Sean Strand one heck of a battle for the lead, took Sean several laps to get by Daryl Parsons. And then Daryl Parsons ended up finishing, I believe, as a career best of 6th place. And I know that to a lot of people, that doesn't sound like much of a win of the week, but that is by far his very best run, heat race and feature race, for him in his career. And I think that deserves a shout out, because that is the kind of weekend, or those are the kind of nights that just keep you motivated to keep trying harder. And I want to see Daryl do even better than that. So my last one of the week goes to Daryl Parsons for just one heck of a night over at the Dacotah Speedway. From heat race to feature, he put it together, and it looks really, really strong in that brand new JMR car. And I hope to see him running up front more often.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a cool one. I like that, Becca. All right, John, what do you got for wins of the week?
Okay, so I have three wins of the week. So without my fourth, but 3 wins of the week. So the first win of the week is going to go to Jordan Sowers, who picked up his first career IMCA Modified feature win over in Fargo on Friday. And Jordan didn't just win it, he basically kind of walked away with that feature event. So good run to him. It was so funny. I was talking to his mom in the grandstands on Saturday over in Jamestown, because on Saturday night over in Jamestown in his heat race, he did not run well at all in his heat race on Saturday night. He was way too tight. He actually ended up blowing it off the top of 3 and 4 at one point and brought out a caution. And then in the feature, he looked way better, was way smoother behind the wheel in the feature, and had a great battle, honestly, with Colin Hibden, as those two were basically side by side going through the field, trying to get up to the top 5. So that was kind of cool to see. But really good run for Jordan on Friday night, picking up that feature win. So congratulations to him. My second win of the week will go to Trey Hess, who picked up a feature win down at the Sheyenne Speedway on Monday. So Trey did a lot of traveling this weekend too, at several tracks with Grand Forks, Devil's Lake, Cheyenne, as well as Casino Speedway. So great run to Trey. It was nice to see him, Tucker, and Greg Josie get out and about and travel around to different tracks across the state of North Dakota and even into South Dakota. And he capped it off with a win over at Cheyenne for the weekend. So that was really cool to see. My other win of the week will go to Joey Thomas, who had a very nice finish to his weekend. So Joey actually ran 5 tracks. He actually kind of took the Mason route. He went to KRA on Thursday. He was in Grand Forks on Friday. He was in Greenbush on Saturday, and then he finished his weekend over at Casino and Cheyenne. And he picked up feature wins both at the Casino Speedway as well as the Cheyenne Speedway. So congratulations to Joey on there, finishing his weekend on a high note. He was actually in the top 10 for the whole entire weekend, but also in the top 5 4 out of the 5 races. So that was a really good weekend for him against some stout competition.
Yep. So yeah, another good solid set of wins. You mentioned that Joey Thomas was in the top 10 all 5 nights. He honestly could have won KRA Speedway. I think he spun out by himself running second. So
yep, he did.
He was very close to having a very, very stellar weekend, but still very good weekend overall into. And yeah, a lot of really surprising travelers throughout the weekend. I know we were kind of like looking, of course, we picked fantasy all over the place, and it was interesting to see the names at some of the places. I think Daryl Nelson at Casino kind of surprised all of us. We're like, wow, that's an interesting spot for him to land on Sunday. But yeah, like of course, it's a long weekend, so of course people have the ability to travel a little bit more. So shout out to all the people that put on some miles this weekend, because it's tough to do nowadays in the economy we're living in.
Well, I could see. I guess I can put some rationale behind maybe Daryl going down to Casino. It's Cades. They had the Gen X late models there that Cade runs, and that would be a good night for both him and his son to be at a track together. It also is a track that is part of the Challenge Series, and with the larger field of cars following the Challenge Series this year, might not hurt to get out and do a little testing at one of the tracks and not saying those are the reasons, but might be some logical explanations behind it. One other thing I found kind of interesting, John, you had Trey Hess. So he raced 4 times this weekend, and his finishes between those 4 nights was a first, a second, a third, and a fourth.
He was top 4 the whole weekend, and against a very, very stout field of cars too, when it came across from. And that's one thing too that I actually want to bring up here really quick too, is that just based on looking at some of the car counts this year, obviously one of our classes that I think all of us were expecting maybe a little bit drop in car count was definitely the Midwest Modifieds, just because a lot of those drivers moved into different divisions, which we have seen that as well, but they still are very healthy with car counts. But I feel like this year, and knock on wood so far, but street stock car counts have kind of gone up at several tracks this year. It's nice to see there, and it kind of started with that, maybe the start of the weekend back there at the end of April, back into the beginning of May. When we looked in Rice Lake had 31 streets for just, an opener. We looked at that one too, and then Street Stock Tour this weekend had 31 and 32 cars. And then you look at Monday, Cheyenne had a very strong field of street stocks, and then as well as Madison. Madison had a very good field of street stock drivers over there too. So that's kind of good to see that there's going to be a healthy field with Wissota street stock this year as well across the board within Wissota.
Yep, and I kind of agree with the Midwest Mod aspect too, because we're seeing not a lot of different winners, but definitely a slightly different group of people running towards the front and getting some good laps. And so far, some really good racing, really good clean racing. Unfortunately, we had, like you said, the carnage in Jamestown, but for the most part, at the start of the season, had some really good hard racing. And so looking forward to seeing more of that come June, as it's been very hot the last couple of weeks. So hopefully the tracks get a little bit of a reprieve with hopefully some moisture during the normal work week to make the tracks really racy for the weekends.
Mason, share with the listeners and the viewers the latest totals that you think that we have here in the state of North Dakota for the INX Legends. Or how about this, North Dakota and Minnesota?
Yeah, so one of the other things that I nerd out on, I mean, we all nerd out on different things in racing, but I kind of keep like a little inventory of all the drivers. I've actually started to do it mainly for the Wissota region, but also all the classes like IMCA related throughout the North Dakota area. And so Legends in particular, I kind of updated it earlier this week, and I'm still missing a few, but right now there is 92 that are in my little inventory for Legend drivers, just in this like state and like little region. So that's an incredible number. And like, I think that's doubled in like the last 2 years. That's crazy.
That's amazing.
And that doesn't include the guys that haven't come out yet. So we do know there's going to be additional drivers because obviously with Minot having some specials, Dickinson, obviously there's a couple drivers that haven't been out yet. Jamestown, there's some drivers that haven't been out yet. So it'll be interesting, Mason, to see. I bet you any money we might hit that 100 car mark by obviously by the end of the season.
And it's definitely gaining steam in other areas, because now, like, even before the season, I was hearing grumblings down to Aberdeen that they want to get some Legend racing going down there. And there's a few more Legend drivers coming from that area. It's like, man, this thing is really taking off for the Legends around here.
Especially with Greenbush. I know Greenbush is another track that's been talking about potentially adding Legends. So that might be another track that adds them at some point.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to watch throughout this season, and hope to see some really strong car counts throughout the entirety of the year at all the tracks. Well, I would agree. I think that puts a good note to end on episode 14 for the Track Packers Podcast Season 2. Be sure to like, share, and comment on our Facebook or YouTube posting of the show. If you're a podcast listener, be sure to give us a 5-star review and subscribe to us on Spotify, Google, or Apple. Thank you once again to our sponsors, Hitch Harness and Isaac Hot Sauce Sandro. And we have a busy weekend of racing once again coming up, and we hope to see you all out there packing the track.